Welcome to the Happy Market Research Podcast, your favorite place for strategies, stories, and insights from the world of market research. Brought to you by your host, Dan Fleetwood.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the Happy Market Research Podcast. I have a very special guest today, Kajoli Tankha. She's head of Microsoft Consumer Insights. Welcome to the show.
I'm so happy to be here, Dan. Thank you so much.
Awesome. So before we get started, can you give a brief introduction, like your background, maybe what you're currently doing in your role, maybe some exciting things, just so the listeners can get kind of an idea of who you are and what you're about?
So I have an amazing job. I lead Microsoft Consumer Insights, and so I get to sit across products like Microsoft 365. So that's your Word, Excel, PowerPoint, all the way to gaming and AI. So it's probably the best role I've ever had in my career. I get to work with really smart people. My background is I started wanting to be a social worker. So I have a master's in forestry. That's something that people find maybe a little surprising thing about me. I am now that I'm in the tech world, it's kind of hard to think of life that was not part of my tech world. But I also had an amazing time doing work for on the agency side, doing work for clients like Coca-Cola, Revlon, Perfetti, Unilever. So I have a broad base of CPG insights and then a very deep time in technology for the past 13 years in Microsoft.
Yeah, well, it sounds like you have an interesting career. One, the job sounds amazing. And two, you have a background in forestry, which I don't think anyone had on like their bingo card in terms of like what you were going to say today. So that's interesting.
Yeah.
So let's get into it. And I love, we were talking beforehand around some of the interests and questions that we could ask, but I'm really interested to know this, and I think the listeners will as well. So if we shadowed you on a messy Tuesday, what ritual would I see or would the listeners see over and over again, something that you do?
So something I do over and over again is ground myself in the moment. So I try to be where my feet are. And then there is always in Microsoft, in my role, there is always at least 3 very key things that I should be doing at that time. So one of my rituals is, do I need to do it now? And do I need to do it? And do I need to do it? So I would say I try to ground myself in the present moment. And then I try to do these 3, just ask myself these 3 questions. Is it really due? Because we have a very wide set of stakeholders, a very wide set of problems, and there's always some sort of a crisis that's going on. So I think that's my ritual. The other one I think I am practicing a lot right now is mindfulness and being in the moment. So a lot of leaders, when they are in a particular meeting, they're actually mentally in another meeting. So one of the things you can do that really, and somehow you've got this back priority list Teams chat running, and that actually helps no one. I have found it profoundly reduces my satisfaction with the job, and it makes me less productive. So I try to be like, for example, I'm right now in this conversation with you, Dan, and I'm in this conversation. I'm not thinking about the meeting to come, the meeting that just happened, my priority list. So mindfulness, I think, is my constant practice.
Yeah, I think that's great. Being where your feet are, being present in the meeting, it helps you out from a standpoint of, again, you're not thinking about like the next meeting or the next thing you got to do next week. It's you're here right now, and you arguably get a lot more out of that meeting or out of the interaction,
Absolutely.
out of your task you're doing than you would normally. Like, how often do you see like you're on meetings and you know that people are multitasking, checking Teams or
All the
Slack
time.
or these other things? Yeah, and
All the time.
it doesn't serve anybody well. Yeah,
it doesn't, because if you are multitasking, maybe you shouldn't be in the meeting in the first place. Right now in Microsoft, we have an ability to access recordings, transcripts, notes, thanks to Copilots. It's not like you have to physically be in the meeting. If all you wanted was to just see if there's something important happening, you could just miss it and then catch up with it with your notes. So I think there is really in this today's time, with the technology that we have at our fingertips, there really is no excuse to not be mindful.
Yeah, 100%. And it's funny because it's almost like a superpower these days, right? Where everyone else is like multitasking, doing 100 different things and not being where their feet are or where their mind is or the meeting. It's actually a superpower that is kind of contrarian, I guess, to like what you think. I mean,
Totally.
just because of the society, the way that it is today. So
Totally.
Interesting. So you manage a global team, and you have to navigate, I'm sure, complex, different environments, political environments, and just the overall, like you said, you're in all these different areas. How do you navigate like the power dynamics without losing yourself? Is it the mindfulness? Is it something else, or what are some of those like tangible tactics that you can give some of the listeners here?
I think that the one thing that I kind of is very important to me is I try to make sure that I'm true to whatever objective I'm trying to achieve.
Mm,
So sometimes that might mean, so for example, if I'm in a big stakeholder meeting and there are a lot of competing objectives, but I need to drive everybody to one common decision that will benefit the company.
hmm
I just try to keep that in mind. So sometimes what happens is if you are a focus group moderator, which I used to be,
hmm
you are so aware of all of these dynamics. You have so much empathy for all the various stakeholders that are there. But I feel I try to stay empathetic to the goal that is going to help the company. And that is the truest thing to myself, I found. Like, my job here is to help Microsoft make the best decisions. And I stay true to that. I think, actually, my background in forestry is very
hmm
helpful in
Oh,
this
interesting. Tell me
process.
more.
So, when I was in forestry, the projects we were doing, there's a kind of communities. There are communities in India which live inside the forests.
hmm
So they believe that the forest is there for their resources. They have very deep connection with the forest. So they are the indigenous people, and for them, depleting the forest resources is not seen as depletion. It's an
mm
ecosystem. If things kind of get depleted, they just move to another part of the forest, and then this forest will deplete itself when they will come back to it. These are kind of some of the dynamics that happen.
hmm
The NGOs want the forests to be untouched.
Yep.
The NGOs is what I was working for. This is a clash in incentives, and nobody's wrong. But if you are thinking of things from the perspective of the forest,
hmm
because the forests are reducing and the way of life from the past no longer works, you have to come to a common ground.
hmm
And that can only be done in partnership with the various constituents. So I think working in forestry is actually the perfect background for working in a very large company like Microsoft. So I would say that's
Yeah.
one way in which I stay true to myself without and just by having empathy with my key stakeholder. When I was in forestry, the key stakeholder was the forest and the environment, and right
hmm
now in my company work, the key stakeholder is the company's benefit.
Yeah, that's interesting. I wasn't expecting forestry and Microsoft to come up, in the same that one could, help inform the other in your day to day. But that's super interesting. In terms of like your day to day, and like I'm sure you're pulled in many different directions, as most of us are. When do you feel most in the flow? What would you say to that?
My most in the flow, this is going to go against most people's belief about all the new things that have come out about like separating your work and your personal life. But my
Yep.
moments of flow usually come when there's an emergency the next day, and
hmm
I have absolutely the free time in the evening from 9 to 12 to work clearly on that. Very
mm
on most days when I have an emergency, that just clarifies, and it's an automatic prioritizing schema, right? And then
hmm
nobody's bothering you. That's like family time is over, office time is over. That's my flow time, and I actually on some of these moments I actually really enjoy it. It's
Okay.
not all the time, but I actually really enjoy it, and this goes against a lot of the things that people really talk about, especially with,
hmm
with women and work, you're just exchanging various kinds of work. But I don't think you need to have work life balance every day.
Right.
You can have work life balance some days, and some days you can't have work life balance. When you're working in a big company in tech with a big job, that's like a trade off you just have to choose to make.
Yeah, no, it makes sense. I think whenever people can find the flow, like some it's in the morning, some it's at night, right? And it's interesting you mentioned that because I do remember getting emails from you, like 9 p.m. to 12. I'm like, geez, she must work all the time. But that's when you find your flow, I guess, and it
Yeah.
makes sense to maximize
Mhm.
those windows. So,
I had an overseas team, and one of my colleagues once asked the overseas team, like, why does Kajali get so much better out of you than I do? And they were like, that's because when she wants a deliverable, she will talk to us at 11 o'clock her time, which is
mm,
10:30 our time, and she'll just talk to the team and explain all the questions. So she'll just get the answers back. And I don't do this all the time. I'm really not recommending work
Yeah.
really hard, because there might be a Friday afternoon when I just finish off. So the total number of hours doesn't change.
Right.
But you have to really be careful that you're, uh, sometimes actually pulling a late nighter is totally fine if you've got a big key, because it's going to have a massive impact on your team. You just have to,
Hmm.
um, you have to pay the price for
Yeah.
big things. That's the unpleasant truth that a lot of people would like to not hear.
Yeah, but I think it kind of goes back to what you're saying, like, work-life balance. Like you don't always get that, right? So you
Mhm.
have to like figure out when it's going to work for you on different weeks, different days. Things come up, life happens, but
Yeah,
outcomes matter. So I think
outcomes
that's
matter,
interesting.
and sometimes you will prioritize your life. My
Hmm.
son is autistic.
Hmm.
I spent 10 years in Bush's Baked Beans before Microsoft. It was an amazing job. I love the people I worked with, and I had very good work-life balance, and that's when I really needed it. I needed to come back home at 4:30 and not be stressed out, and also have a day that didn't quite use me up the way a
Yeah.
Microsoft day uses me up. So I have made different trade-offs at different parts of my life. Now my son is grown up. My husband's a stay-at-home dad, so I have some
Hmm.
more freedoms that I didn't have before. And
Right.
so
Right.
I'm making different trade-offs. So everyone has to decide, but take what you want and pay the price, I guess, is what I would say.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, saying yes to something is saying no to something else and vice versa,
Exactly.
right? So you always have to remember that.
Yep, and be okay with it. Make your peace with it. I think we just keep grappling with, uh, the challenge that we don't want to pay the price of the things we want. We have a good idea of what we want, but we're really not willing to pay the price. And paying the price is sometimes like consistent and relentless, and you don't know if you'll get something, but
Hmm.
it's not necessary. But it's not a sufficient condition, but it's a necessary condition.
Yeah, no, 100%, 100%. In terms of, oftentimes like tough love or perceived negative feedback can be difficult, right? What's one piece of feedback that you've gotten that, kind of stung but ultimately changed you in the end?
The best piece of feedback I got was from my boss as she was leaving Microsoft. She was leaving our team, not Microsoft, actually. She had her direct reports. Three of her us was used to report to her, and she pointed out the three critical flaws that each one had. And I'd never heard this level of clarity. And what really made it absorb for me was she pointed out two flaws in my peers, which were exactly true. I won't say what they were and who they were, but I knew
Okay.
they were true. So therefore, the flaw that she pointed out about me must also be true, right? So she
Right.
told me I was very disorganized.
Mm,
And that worked in Bush's Baked Beans because I knew everything about baked beans. It's just the amount of content that I needed to have in my own head was
right.
not that was not so complex that I couldn't just rely on having a fabulous memory and remember everything and be. She told me I was very disorganized, and that if I was
Mm.
organized, I could be dangerous in Microsoft. Like I would be so
Oh,
good.
wow.
And that advice was very, very hard to take for me because I thought I was organized,
Oh, okay.
and but because she had pointed out these two flaws in my peers, which I knew were true, I realized that what she said about me must also be true.
Right. That's interesting. Yeah.
So it was very difficult to hear that. And it is the best piece of advice I've got because I haven't been able to fundamentally change my instincts. Like for example, the things I told you about being mindful, they're all about like
Hmm.
committing to the moment, but it's not exactly good about committing to all the things in the right priorities. So what I do now is I always surround myself with like super organized people. So I'll
Oh,
have
smart.
someone on my team who's like that does business management. I try to have my directs who are just, one of my directs who leads M365 in gaming. He is absolutely insane about just having everything structured just so. So I copy a lot of things from the people who are organized because the problem with one of these kind of tendencies where you're just like a disorganized person by your nature is you
Hmm.
actually don't have the solutions to solve it. You
Right.
can, you can read a book and try to have some sort of a band-aid, and that'll work for a few months, but then your defaults kick in. So
Yeah.
what do you do to structure in such a way that your defaults don't kick in and you're not in the same situation that you are in? So I treated my disorganization not as a character flaw, but as a problem that I needed to solve to be more effective. And so I did that by surrounding myself with organized people and copying what they do. So, for
Yeah.
instance, in my team, we might do 100 projects over, um, say 5, 6 months. Now, I cannot possibly keep them all in my mind like I could in Bush's Baked Beans because it would be 10
Mhm.
projects. So I
Right.
remembered everything about these 10 projects. Now, one of my direct reports, his name is Humayun, and he told me about the system where he would like his team to always put one slide together where he talked about what is the objective of the research, what is the insights that were generated, what was the decision that was made. So now we do a business impact meeting every 3 or 4 months, and my team's entire 100 projects I have in one PowerPoint. So I don't have to rely on my
Mm.
memory now. I have a giant PowerPoint deck. Each slide represents one project. I know exactly what happened. All the documents are linked. I have Copilot on top of that. So I just copied something that he did. My
Mhm.
other direct report, Simon Huff, he has this, he leads Copilot in Windows. He, for his team, he kind of has these giant Excel files which are recording how he does AI transformation. So I just surround myself with people who are more organized than I am, and then
Nice.
I copy what they do. And it has definitely, it has changed my life.
Yeah, that's interesting. I like how you were so receptive to the feedback, and it was true because you saw it was true in the other two people that she had,
Yeah.
mentioned. So, and enough like self awareness to say, hey, this is something I need to improve, even if I think I'm doing well at it. Obviously, like others, she doesn't. So, and if it can help kind of catapult my career, like that's amazing feedback, and that you
Yeah.
acted on it. So that's great.
Yeah, and I mean, I just acted around it maybe. Maybe I didn't act on it
Mhm.
because I'm still a very disorganized person and I like to rely on my memory. So I don't know if
Yep.
I'm like, uh, but I will say this for me is that, uh, you know, I guess I don't know if I'm very self-aware because we actually have a real blind spot when it comes to our own flaws, but I can recognize the truth when I see it. And I only recognize it
There you
because
go.
what we said about these other two guys was true.
Right. There you go. You can
Yeah,
recognize the truth when you hear it. I
yeah.
like that. I like that. And you said something interesting in the way that you tackled this problem, or not. I wouldn't know if it's a problem or something that you wanted to improve. Is that you surrounded yourself with organized people. I was listening to a podcast last night, and it was like, you want to be happier, surround yourself with happier people. You want to lose weight, surround yourself with people that are fit. Like you are really who you surround yourself with. So it's interesting that
Absolutely.
you kind of applied that to being more organized as well. So I didn't want to sleep on that because I think it's a very good point.
You're the average of the people you surround yourself with. It's very true. Like choose
Yeah,
your friends carefully. You're literally choosing your environment. Choose your team carefully. It's not just that they're good in market research, but they're contributing in a way that makes that whole ecosystem sing.
yeah, yeah. No, I couldn't agree more. I couldn't agree more. Let's shift gears a little bit and spend some time in consumer behavior, human behavior, and maybe some of the research topics we wanted to discuss. What's a pattern in human behavior that you've seen across all the different categories that you're in charge of?
Human beings pay very little attention to our communication. So
Mm,
I think the biggest pattern I've seen over and over again is we will think we have communicated something really well, but we haven't. And so to penetrate into a human's consciousness, you have to have profound insights and you have to really figure out a profound way to communicate them. I
mhm,
think there are many other things that I won't go into, which everybody knows, the habit system, the ecosystem. Like
mhm.
there are a lot of these other psychological systems that I've seen repeat over and over again. But on the corporate side, I would say when communicating, if there's only one thing I would like every marketer, every advertiser to remember, it is keep it very simple. Then
Yeah,
look at what you have created and simplify it still further. So I
yeah,
think simplicity in communication is, you know, once you've done everything else correctly, that is the one pattern I've seen repeat over and over again that consumers reject complexity.
yeah. That's a very good point. And what you mentioned earlier too, I think is important in that people aren't necessarily paying attention to us all the time, right? Like we want to think they have Microsoft, they have Question Pro, they have you name it on their mind all the time, but they're like living their lives or doing things like it's not that they're always thinking about it. So that's an
Yeah,
interesting point. Is keep it simple, So that's great.
every time. I guess that's the law of consumers that I've seen repeat over and over again. Consumers reject complexity.
Hmm. Yeah, that's interesting. Consumers reject complexity. I like that. In terms of AI and all the different things that are going on. Obviously, it's you mentioned Copilot a few times. I think everyone is using it. If you're not, I'd highly recommend start using AI if you're not. But what's your favorite AI work hack or your favorite AI life hack?
So my favorite AI work hack is to use Copilot as an advisor.
Hmm.
And so I spend a lot of time explaining to Copilot what a current situation is. And then, I will. So, for example, if I have to go in and talk to a group about a proposal that's really important to me, the more important something is to me, the more likely I found I'm likely to be emotionally hijacked in the meeting
Hmm.
if other
Hmm.
people don't share my perspective,
Got it.
because somehow I've gotten tied to that point of view that I'm putting in. What happens with practicing with Copilot and asking Copilot to propose alternative views is that I work through the emotion before I get into the meeting. And then once I'm in the meeting, I have already visualized in my mind all the potential questions that could be asked and all the potential answers I could give. Plus, it has Copilot as being a thinking partner has already reminded me that there are many other perspectives to approach this problem,
It's a
you
great
know,
point. Yep.
and it's humbling. But I think what helps me is that I know that Copilot is not judging me.
Hmm.
So I mean, maybe it's judging me in some background
Yeah, you
context,
never know.
but
We'll find
I
out
know
later.
it's not like talking to your boss, right? When
Yeah.
you're like expressing some opinion and your boss not sharing your opinion is going to break your heart a little bit.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah.
So, so I feel that's my favorite work hack. And that's I think, my entire life. Most people have written in my performance review that, I have extremely high EQ.
Hmm.
And that EQ it's a good thing. But
Yep.
the problem is when you're over emotionally attuned to things, you can take that strength too far.
Hmm.
And you are almost a receiver also of other people's points. You're not able to guide people. You have empathy, but you don't have the empathy wall. That's what
Hmm.
Copilot helps me do. It helps me take the empathy wall. It helps me be less emotionally vested in the thing
Hmm.
that I'm trying to do. And it really helps me as an objective thinking partner to just see, like, it's like it was not such a great argument to start with. There are many different points of view on this. So that's my emotional hack. My favorite life hack, I would say, is raising a child. So my
Yeah.
son is autistic. He's very clever, but language is a big problem for him. So sometimes he doesn't understand the situation, and it takes me 5 minutes to just turn my microphone on in my Copilot, and I just like explain the situation that's
Hmm.
happened, and ask Copilot to explain it very simply in a social story. Social story is something that will be very familiar to all parents
Hmm.
with autistic children. And the once I've explained the social story, I just message it back to him. And he just reads the
Interesting.
social story and immediately everything calms down. I think I
Wow.
write at least 10 social stories in a week.
Wow.
And now Copilot knows me so well that and it knows my son so well that it sort of knows a lot of the context information. And so it writes something in 5 minutes that would have taken me, when I would simply sit with a Word doc open, it would have taken me 50 minutes to write it.
Right. Right. What
And
an
it gives.
amazing life hack. What an amazing life hack that Copilot has provided you. Like that's great. Wow.
Yeah, because and then what happens is he's very good with reading, but listening is kind of just stresses him out. So when he
Hmm.
has it all written out, he understands clearly what happened. And then sometimes when I have time, I'll even do like a Q&A at the end of it, and he kind of answers. And now he's gotten into the habit also of talking to Copilot to just say, like, what happened,
Oh, that's
And
good. That's
that just, yeah. So I would say
it's
social
working both
stories.
ways.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so social stories in personal life and my objective thought partner in my work life, those are my two really important hacks.
Interesting. So on the work side, if someone wanted to use it, how you're using it as like an objective, advisor, what sort of prompt are you using? I know it's in the weeds a little bit, but it's kind of interesting to me, and I think it will be for the listeners. Are you just putting in like, hey, this is my side of it. Please provide alternative viewpoints. Is that it, or are you using something else?
So I would say if you're first starting with any kind of an AI use the AI to write the prompt.
Okay, good idea.
You can use one AI for another AI.
Hmm.
So I would say just if you remember 3 years back, everything was about writing the correct prompt. And
Yep.
we spend so much time providing the detail. You can really offload all of that thinking and just use talking to AI, say, I'm going to try and write a prompt. Here's the problem I have, and ask it to write a prompt. The AI will eventually, especially if you keep your memory switched on, the AI will eventually have as much context on you that you're willing to provide it. And so
Right.
then it actually doesn't need that much prompting. But if you
Hmm.
were to do one thing, if you're getting started, don't write your prompts yourself. Use the AI to write the prompts and edit the prompt. Like think a little deeply. I
Hmm.
was once listening to this interview, and this business developer, he said there are some people in life who will never spend 1 hour to save 100 hours. And I would
Hmm.
just say that to the people who try AI, it doesn't work out, and then they give up. Like, don't be that person,
Yeah.
because the way in which you can scale the things that you want
Hmm.
are it's just such a great opportunity right now. Like, don't be that person who just says, oh, it never works, I'll go back to my default.
Hmm.
It doesn't work right now, it doesn't work for 10 minutes, it doesn't work for 20 minutes. In 30 minutes you figured out something. For
Yep.
example, in my case, writing social stories with Rohan, the first few social stories that came out were just like really crap, and I had to work through them.
Yep.
But as I learned how to interact, as I learned how to write prompts, now it is an automatic process that takes me a minute, and it has changed our life. It prevents meltdowns.
Hmm.
I can do this on the go in the car,
Yeah.
just using my microphone and just texting the story back to him as he's sitting in the back about to have a meltdown.
Yeah. That's
And then
great.
immediately the words slow it down and life just changes.
Yeah, that's amazing. I love how you're kind of injecting it into normal day-to-day things that would normally take you mentioned, 50 minutes to write the social story, but now it can be 10 minutes or less just by having the
It
AI
is
and
a minute. It
a
is a
minute.
minute
Yeah.
for me to
Minute.
dictate it in, and then Copilot will just come up with a story.
Yeah, that's amazing. It's amazing. And I would just echo something you said around if you've used AI in the past or Copilot and it didn't work for you, don't not use it again because it is such a powerful tool. And an important thing to remember is like the AI that you're using today is the worst AI you're ever going to use, right?
It's a
It's
great
always
point, Dan.
it's going to get better, next week, next month. So yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah, yeah. One thing I want to kind of touch on, and I know you really care about how people or how you lead, how people remember you. How do you hope people will remember about the experience of being led by you? What's one thing that you try to instill in the people that you lead?
The big thing I try to instill in the people that I lead is I want each of them to have freedom.
Hmm.
So in Microsoft, actually on my team, it's impossible to be a micromanager because we have so much work. If you're micromanaging, you don't have anything to do that means. So there's no
That's
way
funny. I
of being
like
a
that.
micromanager. But
Yeah.
I try to create a lot of independence on the team. So people who are on my team, when they come in, they find that they have a lot of freedom to do the work in the way they want to, and they
Hmm.
also get to lead the work end to end. In a
Right.
lot of teams, what will happen is the person will do the work, then the boss will come and present their work. I
Yep.
just don't have any of that in my team. It is, I get the person to do it end to end. And, if they can't do the end to end, I coach them into doing it. That is the end goal that so I try to create like that pride in the craftsmanship and the ownership. And I try to be a force multiplier. Now that independence
Mhm.
does come with, it's not everybody's cup of tea.
Yep.
So it does come with maybe what some people might feel like they didn't feel enough support
Oh yeah.
on individual stuff. So it's not like a cup of elixir. But I will say that after being on my team, it is hard to go back to a team where you don't have the freedom.
Yeah, yeah. No, I think autonomy is definitely nice, right? Like once you have it and you can thrive in it, going
Yeah,
back to something else, you're like, stop micromanaging me. I just want to do my
exactly.
thing. So yeah,
Yes.
that's great.
Yes, and it comes with a lot of accountability because I expect them to do an excellent job and I expect them to commit. They can no longer work like an like someone who's doing something for a boss. They have to do
Yep.
it for the work and they have to be fully accountable. So it's not it's a cup of poison you have to choose to drink.
Yeah,
But if you
100%.
drink it, you will have a hard time going somewhere else.
I like that. No, that's a good way to put it. It's a good way to put it. So, as we start to wrap up here, I've another question for you, and this can be like a quick takeaway. What's one piece of advice that you would give for improving research methodology, practice, or just research in general? What's that one piece of advice you would give?
In general, I would say try to stay close to the customer context as much as possible.
Mm.
Like if you're the person who has never attended an ethnography in the past 10 years, I can guarantee you don't understand things from people's perspective.
Oh,
So
nice.
try to be that person. The one advice that will improve all research, it doesn't matter how much uh, researchers transform and all of that. If you yourself don't have the customer context, if you yourself haven't met, a gaming user, a Windows user, a Copilot user, if you haven't listened to their interview, if you haven't seen the context of their lives, you are not going to be a good researcher. That's absolutely right.
Yeah, that's great. That's a great point. Where can listeners connect with you, find out more about you? Is LinkedIn the best spot, or where would you
Yeah,
point?
LinkedIn is probably the best spot. And yeah, I'm not the perfect one to respond to LinkedIn messages, but I will respond. If you comment, I will respond. My LinkedIn inbox is a complete mess. I'll just say that.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Well, hey, thank you so much for your time today. I know I learned a lot. I'm sure the listeners did. You're a joy to talk to, and I just really appreciate you coming on the show.
Dan, this was amazing. Thank you so much for being a great interviewer. I appreciate it.
Great. Well, thank you so much, everyone. Thanks so much for listening. If you like this, please share it, like it, subscribe to the channel, and we'll have more great content. And please connect with Kajoli here. And with that, we will see you in the next one.